Okay, well, hey everybody, and welcome to this special webinar that we're doing called "Financial Nutrition: How to Make Your Wallet Fat and Your Body Lean." My name is David Chuddick, and I'm a financial advisor. And you might be asking, what the heck is a financial advisor doing hosting a nutrition webinar? And the answer is, I believe that we all are our habits, and we all have responsibility for wellness in all the different parts of our lives, and that includes money, which I deal with specifically, but it also includes our health, our fitness, our relationships, and things like that. So, a couple of months ago, I met Stephen Pumphrey at a Chamber of Commerce meeting, and really liked what he was saying about his nutrition and physical training coaching practice. And I said, "Hey, would you be willing to come and share some of your knowledge with us on how to eat more healthy, but also do it in a financially responsible way?" Because one of the things I hear often is it's too expensive to eat healthy. And a lot of people are just confused on how to maintain the right body weight. So Stephen is he's local in Oconee County, but also works virtually all over the country. And he's going to share with us some tips on financial nutrition. So, hey, Stephen, how are you?
I'm wonderful, David. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, so I'm really excited. I'm actually going to take notes and hopefully get a lot of tips from you that can help me personally. And yeah, so uh, take it away, man. This is all you, and I'm excited to learn a lot on this webinar.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much again. And as thank you everybody for joining and watching. And as David mentioned, this is I titled it "Financial Nutrition: How to Make Your Wallet Fat and Your Body Lean," which is kind of the way that I live my life right now. I'm a very frugal person, and like David was saying, we met at a chamber meeting, and he's like, "Hey, I'm a financial guy. I'd really like you have it on a podcast." I'm like, "Okay," but then I started thinking about it, and there are a lot of similar connections, and I'm going to try and use both nutrition language and financial language as we go through this presentation. Hopefully I don't butcher that financial side too bad. But first, a little bit about me. I am a certified nutrition coach through Precision Nutrition. They are the largest and most respected private nutrition company in the world. I also have a personal training certification through ISSA. They are International Sports Sciences Association. On a different type of topic, I am not a nurse. I'm not a dialysis tech, but I do work in a dialysis clinic. I work in the office. I'm the administrative assistant there. I don't do direct care with the patients, but I do interact with them a lot. So I know, basically their histories, why they're on dialysis, and it's dialysis is rough. It's a really rough setting. In the 6 years that I have been there, I think I'm right at about 90 people that I have watched die. And some of them are there through no fault of their own, but the majority, it comes down to different lifestyle choices. And that could be due to, I don't know what's right or wrong, how to eat healthy, and sometimes, we just don't care, which I find equally sad. So it's kind of my mission is to educate people on those kind of things. And another resource that I draw a lot of information from, my other half, Joel, is an ER nurse. He works in an emergency room, and pretty much every night at dinner time conversation is, well, what did you say at work today? Nurses have a rough job to begin with, but when we don't take care of ourselves and we get out of shape, heavier than what we should be, it makes their job, healthcare providers in general, their jobs more difficult. I don't have a whole lot of fat on my arm, and I'm pretty vascular, so they have no problem getting an IV in my veins. But if you have an extra couple pounds of subcutaneous fat, for lack of just being honest, on your arm, it makes it really difficult on the healthcare worker to get an IV started. The same goes for any medical procedure out there. Surgeries, if they have to cut through layer upon layer upon layer of fat that to get to where they're going, it just makes their job and the procedure that you're having done and your recovery that much more difficult. So the healthcare workers have it tough, and it's really a lot more challenging to work with people that are overweight. people say to me all the time, okay, well, you're skinny. I'm not. I want to get skinny. How can you relate to me? This picture was me, 1998-ish, or not, I'm sorry, 88-ish, right around when I graduated from high school. Not the biggest arm in the world. I was the kid. I wouldn't take my shirt off. I wore long pants a lot. I was generally self-conscious about how I looked because I thought I was too skinny. Fast forward to today, well, about a year ago, to when I had been working out for a couple of years, working on my fitness and working on my nutrition, and I've beefed up that arm a little bit. If there's one mission statement that I think I have in life is I change lives through nutrition and fitness coaching. Obviously, I can't do the work for you. That's where I come in and just, like the sports analogy goes, I coach you and help you, educate you, teach you how to eat better and work out. And shameless plug, that's my website, stevepumphrey.com. No more marketing for me. So today's big question is, as David mentioned in the beginning, can I eat healthy on a budget? Because I hear all the time pushback, as David mentioned, it's too expensive. Can't do it. Well, spoiler alert, the answer is yes, you can. So some definitions and philosophies up front. Nutrition, as we mentioned, this is primarily like some financial stuff is David's background. So when we talk about nutrition, we'll also link that to income. The textbook definition of nutrition, the process of providing or obtaining the food, friends, money, if we're going to talk about income, necessary for health and growing or living, if we're talking about money. An easy thing for me, because I like simple, an easy thing for me to do is go through and red letter things in a definition. So we can translate this definition to obtaining food for health and growth, or obtaining money for living. Make sense? Now there's, as David can attest to, I'm sure, there's good investments and there's not so good investments. On the left-hand side, we have, in my opinion, what are some better investments than what's on the right-hand side. I'm not saying that we have to have 100% good investments all the time. As we'll see later, I'm a fan of Dr. Pepper. Is that a bad investment? Maybe for that split second, but I can get over that as long as I'm not investing in that all the time. So yeah, we've got good investments and not so good investments. Fitness, we can think of as a balance sheet. Fitness in general is the ability to perform your activities of daily living, or your ADLs. That encompasses body composition, how much fat you have on your body versus how much muscle you have on your body, your flexibility. We don't have to be pretzel girl here. No, we just need to be able to bend down and tie our shoes every once in a while, or crouch down to pick up our grandkids. It also talks about muscular strength. How strong are we? Now that we bent down and picked up, can we actually lift the grandkid off the ground? Which works up until they're like 5 or 6. Muscular endurance. How many times can we pick the grandkid up off the ground? And then there's cardiorespiratory endurance. The grandkid takes off running. Can we actually run fast enough and catch up to him and bring him back to wherever he was supposed to be? So those 5 things go into basically the overall fitness, or your fitness balance sheet. Okay. One of my big philosophies is we're all unique individuals. There are about 8 billion of us, for round numbers, on the planet. No 2 of us are exactly alike. Okay. If we flash back to the movie Twins, if you haven't watched the movie, it's a cute little movie. Arnold Schwarzenegger and Danny DeVito play twins, identical twins, separated at birth. Okay, so Arnold Schwarzenegger goes off to, and I can't remember the specifics, but he goes off and he basically has the best of everything. He has the best food, he has the best workout programs, just living the perfect life. Danny DeVito, not so much. And you can see by their pictures, the outcome's a little bit different. So all this goes to say, what works for one person, not necessarily going to work for another person. Even if you're biological twins with the exact same DNA, if you live completely different lifestyles, the Danny DeVito lifestyle, and I'm not being mean to Danny, it's just, it's the character he plays. But you live the Danny DeVito lifestyle versus the Arnold Schwarzenegger lifestyle, you're going to have completely different outcomes in life. You might still be biologically identical, you're just going to be different. All right, simplicity. I mentioned this one already before. I'm a simple guy. This road right here just drives me crazy. I would much rather read a whole bunch of stuff and study up on things, be able to simplify it in really, really plain, clear language, and just smooth sailing. And I think that's a good way for most people to be, even with finances. I don't want a whole lot of complicated financial talk thrown at me from a financial advisor. All right, science. Science is one of those things we could go on and on and on forever about science, but we'll relate it to cash flow projections right here. The textbook definition of science: the pursuit and application of knowledge and understanding of the natural and social world following a systematic methodology based on evidence. And I just told you I'm a simple guy. I kind of undid that there. But if we go back to the red letters, science, basically knowledge of the world based on evidence. Got to have the evidence in there, right? So here's a simple scientific experiment. You see where I'm going with this. If we drop a tennis ball, what's going to happen? It's going to fall to the ground and bounce, right? The beanbag, drop a beanbag, it's going to fall to the ground and thud, right? We've done this before. We may have not done it like I'm talking about now. Wine glass, crash, we've made a mess. So what did we prove here? Gravity, inertia, velocity, a whole bunch of things. Thank you, Sir Isaac Newton. Is this a repeatable process? I'm standing here in Seneca, South Carolina. If I drop a tennis ball here, yeah, it's going to bounce on the ground. Move me to the moon, well, we've changed something. So that experiment that says that I'm going to drop the ball and it's going to bounce is no longer valid because we've changed my location, okay? Next up, we'll talk about research studies. We've heard a lot about research studies over the past couple of years. Everybody wants to throw out a research study. Research studies can also, I would relate them to a credit report. So it's an outside somebody looking at something else, okay? So, and we hear in the news all the time, studies have shown. Flip on any news station and every night there's a new study about something. You know, you're going to die because of this. You're going to live longer if you do this. Hit the pause button on those, because most of the time, and I'm not being mean to the news people either, because they're in business. They're trying to make money just the same as everybody else is. So, I mean, I know in social media terms, they call it clickbait. You see something, oh, I want to click on it. Well, they get paid every time you click. The same for news companies, okay? So when we talk about research studies or our credit report, ask yourself, when you hit the pause button, how many people were in the study? How many people were not in the study? Remember how many people are on the planet? 8 billion. Well, if you're doing a study and you've come out with these amazing conclusions and you studied 2 people, I'm not seeing where that's really valid. So that's something to take into consideration. How were these people selected? Were they randomly selected? Like just, you know, you grabbed 400 people off the streets? Or was it a specific population? Did you go to a nursing home and do this? Supposedly a broad general study. And you have a really specific population of people that you're looking at, okay? I mean, I don't know that we're going to want to do a study on cardio fitness by using nursing home patients. I mean, maybe there is a study out there like that, but not one that, well, you know what I mean. There needs to, in order for a study to be effective, you got to have a broad cross-section of people. How was it conducted? You know, was there some controls in place, or was this just kind of like, oh, here, take this medication and tell us what happens kind of thing? Controls need to be in place so that if it is a medication-based study, the number of people that were in the study, and then they normally do a control group and a non-control group. So they divide it in half. You know, if you got 500 in this one, 500 in this one, these ones are taking a placebo and these ones are taking the actual medication. And then there's expanding controls around that for how, you know, when the medication was delivered, if it's a fitness or nutrition, you know, days, times, there's a lot of that goes into a study. So my point is here that studies are really, or should be really, really complicated. The last question, we got to be careful on this one. We want to use our brains, okay? Can you perform the study on yourself? And this is a couple of different things, and it actually ties in the were you in the study bullet point. And I don't necessarily mean were you in the study, although you can sign up or be chosen to be in studies, but was somebody that represents your specific demographic in the study. For me, 53 years old, 5'10", 175, 180 pounds, was somebody with the same health conditions that I have in the study that you can relate to, or that you can say, oh yeah, okay, this XYZ affected them this way. That makes sense. It might do the same for me. Then you can make a little bit more of an educated guess to say, if it is a new drug or something that, okay, maybe I do want to ask my doctor about da, 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 da. The gold standard for research studies is a human randomized control study. That's the gold standard. Human, obviously, our genetics are different from that of a rat. You hear people go, well, they did study on rats. I'm not a rat. Not saying that that's good or bad. I mean, the study. Randomized, like I'd mentioned before, not just picking specific targeted people. Controlled, you have to have controls in place. Okay, so that's the three big topics that are the three key points that make up a good research study. Okay, financial statement. Are we healthy? Now these numbers are a couple years old. I think they're about 2 years old because the CDC takes a little bit of time to catch up and tabulate everything. Heart disease has killed almost 700,000 of us in 1 year. Cancer, over 600,000, stroke, 160,000, diabetes at 102, and kidney disease, the one that's near and dear to my heart since I work in a dialysis clinic, at 52,500. Okay, so you can take that for what it's, those numbers at face value. In general, I don't think we're getting more healthy as a country. We weren't there years ago. So if we look at our vitals or our account balances, in 1970, the year that I was born, so that's 29 short years ago, the average male weighed 172 pounds. So not far off from where I am now. I'm between 175 and 180. The average female was at 144 pounds. Fast forward to 2021, and I'm sure everybody's seen these pictures on Facebook because that's exactly where I started this graphic from. Our average male is up to 198 pounds. Ladies, you haven't slacked off either. You're at 167 pounds. Our body fat percentage is between 28 and 40%. So let me put this into perspective. Let's just say that you're a 100-pound male, just for round numbers. 40% or 40 pounds of you is fat. Almost half of us have a blood pressure above normal, 120/80. And 13% of us have diabetes. How did we get here? I have a couple theories. We do stuff differently now than what we used to. This lady out tending her crops is doing a lot of physical labor. I mean, she's working it. It also looks to me like she's doing it with just an implement. She might be weeding or tilling or something like that, but it's manual labor, and it doesn't, unless it's hiding somewhere, I don't see a big bottle of pesticides that she's spraying on things. The one on the right, we can't see the farmer, but he's probably not getting the exercise that that lady in pink is getting. And I don't know what he's spraying on there, but it doesn't look like he's just putting water on it. Walking, we used to walk a lot. And now I see more and more people that can barely fit in their cars anymore because we stopped walking. Stairs, that's another thing. I have literally seen people stand in line to get on an elevator when there's stairs right next door. We just don't do that anymore. And then there's doctors and medications, prescription and non-prescription. Don't get me wrong, I love doctors, work for doctor. I get them doctors. They have a purpose. But when you walk through the aisles of any HBA section in Walmart, Target, pick your store, there are hundreds, if not thousands of options to fix, cure, pretty much anything. But stop and ask yourself, I've got a little tiny headache. I mean, I don't, but if I have a little tiny headache, do I need to run and take Tylenol or ibuprofen, or is it just like, okay, maybe I was out in the sun and I got some, I didn't have my sunglasses on. I just got a little bit of glare. It'll go away just fine. I don't need to take anything. The same with prescription medications. Again, I'm not beating up on doctors, but if you go to your doctor with a problem and he doesn't try and troubleshoot why you got that problem. I mean, doctor, it hurts when I do this. Oh, well, here, let me give you some pain medicine. Why not stop doing that? All right, now I told you I'm gonna beat up on soda, okay? How much soda, stop and think for a second. How much soda do you drink in a year? Well, if you drink one 12-ounce soda, you're drinking about 5 gallons a year. So one 12-ounce soda a week adds up to about 5 gallons of soda in a year, okay? If you drink one 12-ounce soda a day, you're gonna be carrying around a lot more buckets because you're looking at 4,300 ounces or 34 gallons of soda. Now, the average, and I'm not exactly sure what scientific methodology we use to conduct this research, but the average American drinks about 55 gallons of soda a year. I don't know about you, but I can't see dragging around that size of vat of soda. So how much money, since we're talking, part of this is about finance, how much money do we spend on soda? Right around the convenience stores in where I live, the average price per ounce of soda is about 10 cents. It was $2.09 soda. It was 20 ounces. You divide it out of 10.4 cents. So right around 10 cents an ounce. We'll call it that. So there's 128 ounces per gallon, right? So we're looking at 5 gallons of soda for if you're the once a day person, or I'm sorry, once a week person. You're looking at $64 a year in just soda. Okay. If you're the once a day person, you spent $435 on your soda. We're not counting any of the food. This is just your Dr. Pepper, your whatever your drink of choice is. You're at the 55 gallon stage. That's $704 a year. What could you do? I mean, for me, that's like a car payment. I mean, okay, it's one out of a whole year, but nonetheless, I mean, 55 gallons of soda, it's $704. That's a lot. Then if we factor in the sugar, there's about 1 pound of sugar in 1 gallon of soda. When you hold 1 pound of sugar, I mean, if the bags you buy in the grocery store are 5 pounds. So, if you divide that out 5 times, what you're left with, one of those portions is how much soda is in 1 gallon. It's roughly the weight of a 7-year-old child is what you're drinking if you drink if you're in the average of the 55 gallons a year category. And we know that sugar is not good for us. Diabetes is, a major complication or a major problem, or stems from too much sugar. And you can see the horror pictures here of things that go wrong with your brain, things that go wrong with your eyes, things that go wrong with your heart. When diabetics lose feeling, when their nerves get damaged through peripheral neuropathy, they can't feel their limbs as well. The lower left-hand picture there is probably from somebody that didn't realize they had a cut on their foot. It was slow to heal, it got infected, now their toes are rotting and falling off. So it's a serious thing. Diabetes is a very serious disease, fairly easily controlled, but it's also fairly, except for the hereditary versions, fairly easy to avoid. All right. So now let's get into calories, or what I will call cash, since we're talking about finances as well as nutrition. A lot of people are adverse to counting calories, and this is great. And I so appreciate David for asking me to do this, because it's given me some new insight. If you don't know how much cash you have, how can you manage your spending? For example, maybe you have a $500 a month mortgage payment. Well, when it comes time for that payment to be paid, you only have $400 in your account. If you're not counting calories, how do you, and I'm not saying that you have to count down to the itsy bitsy level, but you need to have some idea of how many calories, how much cash you're taking in. And calorie, the definition of a calorie, it gets complicated, but I mean, it's literally fuel for your body. That's how we determine calories. It's fuel that your body uses. And technically it is raising the temperature of 1 gram of water, 1 degree centigrade. So that's what 1 calorie actually pulls off. Bumping up 1 gram of water, 1 degree centigrade. That's how much heat a calorie generates, 1 calorie generates. So I hope that makes sense. Calories can get really complicated. But the bottom line of this slide is you need to have a general understanding of how many calories you're taking in. If your wallet is getting too fat to fit in your pocket, you've got too much cash on board. All right, so back to our example with the 55-gallon drum that we're toting around. If our average is 55 gallons that we are consuming in soda, and there's 128 ounces in a gallon, and there's 7,040 ounces in 55 gallons, and there's 12.5 calories in 1 ounce of soda, we're looking at 88,000 calories in that 55-gallon drum. The average person walking burns about 100 calories per mile. That means I can walk how far? From where I am in South Carolina, I can walk to Houston, Texas. It's going to take me 14 days. And that's the only nutrition that I would need as far as calories is that big old vat. I would probably burn a few more calories if I'm dragging it behind me. Anyways, that to me is a really good example of how concentrated calories can be. I mean, I don't know that your car is going to get that good miles per gallon. It might, I don't know. Energy or spending. How much money are we spending or how much energy are we burning? And here's another complicated definition, and we'll just jump right into the red letters of it. So energy is transferred in the performance of work in the forms of heat and light. Calories, remember, we're burning those. That's where the energy comes in. Your energy is expended through the heat, through the chemical reactions that go on in your body. They produce the heat. We're all 98.6. That has to come from somewhere. In humans, energy comes from food we eat. It's used to make us function. If we overfill our tank, we get an excess store of fat. So it's just like the cash in your wallet. When you have too much of it, your wallet's too thick. You got to empty it out and put it somewhere else. In this case, we have visceral fat and subcutaneous fat on this diagram here. Visceral fat is the fat that's like deep around your organs and stuff like that. That's worse than the subcutaneous fat. Subcutaneous fat is your typical, your beer belly kind of fat stuff, right below subcutaneous, below the skin. Okay. This next slide is probably the key to everybody's questions about how much do I need to eat to lose weight. Okay. Losing weight is really, really simple, but it's really, really hard to do. Ask anybody that's been overweight and tried to lose weight. It's not easy. Your energy balance or your balance sheet is the key to this. If you consume more energy than you use, you will gain weight. If you consume less energy than you will lose weight. When you're right on point, consuming and burning about the same, so if you're spending the same amount as coming in, you're at a net zero. So you haven't gained, you haven't lost. That's the key to weight loss. And like I said, it's really simple to see the words on the screen, but it's really difficult when you try to do it. And the same holds true for gaining weight. I have tried to gain weight and not gain fat, but gain muscle. That's really difficult to do too. All right, so now the word diet. We'll equate diet to cash, stocks, bonds. Basically, your whole portfolio is your diet, okay? If you go out and Google, and I did this test a little while ago, I went out and Googled the word diet. There's almost, 4.6 billion results come up if you just put the word diet in Google. Popular diet plans are putting you to 120 million results. You see why we're confused? The great thing about this is diet just makes up what you're eating. You're already on a diet. So I really don't like it when people say, I got to go on a diet. You're already on one. You just need to cut back on the income or increase the output. So here's a good example. Person number one can eat 2,500 calories, which is, we'll get into calories and how much we should and shouldn't eat in a couple more slides. But a person number one can eat 2,500 calories on whichever side I'm pointing to, that particular diet. Dr. Pepper, M&Ms, Doritos, Big Mac, donuts. You're going to eat a lot less food, quantity-wise, to get up to that 2,500 calories, but it's doable. Person number two eating 2,500 calories, fruits, vegetables, meats, cheeses, fish, shellfish, those kind of things. Let's talk about our return on investment of those two diets. The one on the left, they're healthy. The ones on the right, not so much. They have different nutrients. There's different levels of satiety, how satisfied you feel when you eat them. I mean, if you go out and eat 3 donuts for breakfast, yeah, you might eat the same amount of calories that somebody else does for their big breakfast, but you just ate basically a bunch of sugar, which is going to fly right out of you, and you're going to be falling asleep within probably 2 hours. And you're going to have different health outcomes based on what you're eating as well. All right, so now we're going to talk about reading a food label. There's 2 different points I want to make here. First off, you've got to think about marketing versus accounting. Marketing is what we see on the screen now. Pretty pictures, food looks really good. if they could make it have a scent. Well, some of it does. I mean, if you walk through different departments in a grocery store, you can smell what's in the packaging. But my point is, you go out of their way to make it look really, really appealing. Now and then you flip over and look at the accounting side, the back side of it, the nutrition label. Not being mean to accountants, love accountants, have accountants myself. Right, David? But when it comes down to looking at the numbers, what's actually in that box, of that pretty box of stuff that you're holding, you want to pay a little bit more attention to the accounting portion than you do the marketing side. So first things first, how many servings? And this is just a generic food label. It wasn't one that I stole off an actual product. It's just for teaching purposes. First thing you should look at is the serving size. This one, serving size, is 2/3 of a cup, 55 grams. How many servings are in the package of whatever it is you're holding? If you're if you're just eating chips out of the bag, deciding whether you want to eat chips or not, and there's 8 servings in the bag, you have to multiply everything else lower on that label or on that income statement by the number of servings. So I'm terrible at math, but if you eat the whole thing of whatever this is that this food label's on, you have to multiply 230 by 8 to get the total calories of what you just consumed. Make sense? And everything else down the line it follows suit. Your sodium, the carbohydrates, the proteins, the fats, everything gets multiplied by 8 if you eat the whole bag.
So Steve, if I could jump in, if you go back to that slide. So
Sure.
If 8 people can't divide that up and eat that, serving sizes are probably unrealistic.
Probably.
Right? I mean, if that thing can't feed a family of 8 and each person would only eat 1/8 of it, it's probably, if 2 people would normally eat that thing and split it up, then really, it doesn't have 230 calories. It would have much more than 230 calories for a typical amount that you would eat.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, pick any baked good. Years ago, when my Dr. Pepper or my soda example, that was a serving of 2. But we've changed that now. We had to fess up and double the calorie count on it because who drinks only half a can?
Right.
There's a lot of different soups out there that if you look, it's like 2.5 servings in a can of soup. Who does that? You're going to eat a can of Campbell's chicken noodle soup. You're going to eat the whole can, not, 1 point, only part of it. So yeah, you're exactly right. If you can't divide whatever that is 8 times and actually have anything left, then there's a lot of calories, a very high density amount of calories.
Yeah. And one of the things that I talk about with money is we have to know the truth. So however much money you have is how much money you have, regardless of whether you acknowledge it or not. So you can look at that label and say, well, it's only 230 calories. Well, it's only 230 calories if you eat 1/8 of it. If you normally eat the whole thing, it's 230 times 8. If you normally eat the half of that whole box, it's 230 times 4, which is getting close to a whole day's worth of calories. So you got to be aware, which is tough.
Yes. But the information is there. By law, they're required to put that on the packaging. We still got to get past the pretty pictures. I guarantee you people wouldn't buy half of what they buy in the grocery store if all the nutrition labels face forward.
Right.
All right. So how much food, calories, income, whatever we want to call it, do we need? And obviously with money, I'm happy always making more money, but in calories, not necessarily the case. A couple of different ways that we can measure this. None of these are perfect. These are jumping off points to be a guide. Okay. The first one is an online calculator, and I'll show you one of those in a second. It's just like part of a website. You're going to go to a website, you're going to key in some info about yourself, and it's going to tell you not precisely, but roughly how many calories you need to eat. Another kind of close estimator is take your body weight and multiply by 10 to 12. So for me, for round numbers, if I'm 180, multiply by 10, 1,800 calories is a good starting point for me to consume. And I can go up or down based on activity level. Trial and error factors into all of these. Like this guy standing in front of the mirror here, he's obviously looking and saying, I might need to back off a little bit. To lose weight, you want to be in roughly a 500 calorie deficit, meaning you need to eat about 500 calories less than what your body, eat 500 calories less than what your body needs. And that's based on a couple of things we'll talk about on the next slide. To gain weight, it's the opposite, about 500 calories in a surplus. But in order to gain, for me, the right kind of weight, muscle weight, you've got to be pushing some weights around, because otherwise you're just going to develop fat. You're just going to add fat to yourself and not muscle. But that's a topic of a whole different webinar. So a food calculator looks similar to this. This is one from Legion Athletics. You can just Google Legion Athletics if you're interested. For me, I put my information in here, imperial, just because we're in the United States. Male, gender, I weigh, at this time it was 175 pounds. I'm 5'10", I'm 52. And for activity level, I put in that I get about 7 to 9 hours of exercise per week. Does not count me walking to the car, okay? This is purposeful, meaningful exercise. Like I actually took a walk, took the dog for a walk, went for a run, went to the gym, something other than my just regular old daily activities, okay? So that's purposeful exercise I put down, because I get roughly about 7 to 9 hours a week. And then we'll just leave the BMR. We won't even mess with that. That's the one that's recommended. Just we'll leave it there. So for me, when I put in my stats, it tells me that I need about 2,800 calories a day, which isn't far off based on what we did when we multiplied body weight times 10 to 12. And with a lot of exercise, then I'm going to need more calories. And so the 2,800 calories is the total daily energy expenditure, TDEE. That's a complicated way of basically saying that's how many calories you burn, including your exercise, okay? The basal metabolic rate, the BMR listed below, and don't confuse this with BMI. We're not talking about BMI, BMR, okay? Basal metabolic rate. We don't want to talk about BMI right now. Basal metabolic rate is basically, this always sounds so morbid, but if I was in a coma and there was just basic life-sustaining stuff happening in my body, basically the cardio part was working. The heart was beating, the diaphragm was moving, the lungs were going in and out. Not a whole lot of digestion, just kind of lying there, okay? Not like sleeping, because you can roll and move your muscles when you sleep. This is just keeping the lights on, okay? I'm at 1,655 calories. All right, let's jump over now and change things on this slide a little bit. Still male, still 175 pounds, still 5'10", still 52. Let's change this to, I've got a desk job, and I go from the desk job, I walk to the car, which is probably parked as close as I can to the front of the building. And then I drive, I pull into the garage, and I sit down on the couch, okay? So when we do that, I only need 1,900 calories a day, which is barely above my coma value, okay? So now we get into the fun part of this presentation, a day of eating. So this is my weight loss, money gain example, all right? This is what I would consider a standard day of my type of eating. Eggs and bacon for breakfast. I have no problem with that. Some people will freak out, but that's perfectly fine. This is the way I eat, and it works for me. Yogurt, fruit, there's a little honey, and some water. That puts me at 580 calories. It also costs me, eggs change, I understand that, about $3.78, okay? Lunch, a couple of chicken thighs, some mixed vegetables, some oranges, and another bottle of water. 544 calories, and it cost me about $2.90. Dinner, salmon, asparagus, some lemons for color and flavor on the side. I get to eat chocolate and some water. I'm not eating the whole bag of chocolate now. I'm eating the serving size out of the bag of chocolate. So that puts me at 590 calories for dinner and $4.53. So let's look at my balance sheet. Calories, I totaled up to 1,714 calories, and cost was $11.21. Totally not affordable, right? Did we meet our goals? Well, if I'm the active guy over here at 2,800 calories, I'm way below what I need, right? I needed 2,800 calories. I'm at 1,700. I'm in the hole. I did good on my money though. So I could probably bump things up. I could probably add another egg. I probably could add maybe a little bowl of oatmeal to go with breakfast. Maybe even some oatmeal into the yogurt. For lunch, I can add a couple more pieces of fruit. Maybe even another chicken thigh. Maybe even a small side of mashed potatoes or something like that. And then for dinner, I had salmon and I had asparagus. Maybe I could add some rice to go with that. So that's going to get my calorie count up. So now, oops, I'm done with that one. On the other guy's side on the 1903 calories, if he's trying to lose weight, we're good because we're at 1700. We're in a deficit. We're 200 calories below where he needs to be for his total daily energy intake. So we're 200 calories below. So we're going to have a weight decrease if we keep that trend up. All right. Now that was me. Now we're going to jump over and talk about average Joe. We'll call him AJ. AJ's a busy guy. He might have a wife, he might have kids, he's got a busy job, he runs around, he does all these activities with the kids and the wife and all that kind of stuff. He's going to hit McDonald's, Subway, and Little Caesars. Okay. AJ's breakfast, he's at McDonald's, we're doing the bacon, egg, and cheese sandwich thing. Potatoes have phosphorus in them, so we're going to do, and that's a good thing, we think, right? So we're going to do hash browns, and then he loves this coffee thing that they have there. And coffee's good for you. I mean, black coffee, but it's got some frosty stuff on the top, but it's fine. We're looking at a significantly increased number of calories. There was 1,000 calories in AJ's breakfast and it cost him $9.17. I literally went to the McDonald's down the street and priced this, and it was about 2 weeks ago, so it's fairly accurate for me where I live. So, okay, AJ knows, well, you know, okay, maybe breakfast wasn't as healthy as what it should have been. So Subway, eat fresh, right? I'm going to go to Subway for lunch. So I'm going to do the salad thing. They'll take any sub that they have, they'll make a salad out of it. And I'll have a soda because it's a package. It's the combo deal. I'm going to do a soda. I'm going to do some of these chips. And then I'm going to splurge because I'm eating healthy. I'm going to have one of those chocolate cookies. And the cost on this, see, I told you, I mean, you cannot eat healthy for a reasonable price. Lunch cost me 16 bucks, AJ, 16 bucks. There was 490 calories in his salad. If AJ does what I see a lot of people do, and I'm guilty of doing myself when they're standing in the line at Subway, and they hand you your cup and you're waiting on them to fix your sub or your salad, you fill it up. In this case, AJ's case is going to be Dr. Pepper. He's drinking it while they're making his sandwich or his salad. Then when it comes time to go actually eat the sandwich or salad, he's going to fill it up again because the machine's right there and free refills. And then once he's done eating, he's going to fill it up again for the road. So he's just multiplied his 150 calories in that soda up to 450. Okay. So lunch, yeah, might cost 16 bucks, and he was eating healthy and paying a lot to eat healthy, but he also ate 1,350 calories. So, did he do all that well with lunch? I don't think so. All right, dinner. He's tired from a long day at work. I went way overboard when I tried to eat healthy for lunch, says AJ. I'm hitting Little Caesars on the way home because it's $5. It's cheap. I got to make up for the 16 bucks that I spent at Subway eating healthy. And I'm going to drink 3-course light because I need it. Well, here's what we did. We took a 2,300 calorie pizza, divided it in half because I split it with with my wife or whatever. Maybe the kids got some. So I only ate 1,150 calories out of that, but I ate healthy for lunch. It was $5. So it really cost me $2.50 if I'm going to divide it out over, you know, what the actual dollar was to me that I ate. And then the 102 calories times 3 for 306 calories in my 3 Coors Lights. And it was $7.99 for a 6-pack. Divide that, it was $3.99. So for dinner, oops, I lost my own slides. So for dinner, we ate 1,456 calories, and it cost us $6.49. See, it's so much easier and cheaper to eat the Little Caesars lifestyle. All right, so let's look at AJ's balance sheet for the day. Breakfast, we're over 1,000 calories. Lunch, 1,350. Dinner, wow, so he's almost at 4,000 calories for the day and $31.72. And yeah, he spent a lot of it at Subway, and I don't think Subway is all that. I mean, most of his calories came from junk at Subway.
Well, and what do you think the odds are that AJ had nothing, didn't have a handful of chips, didn't have maybe a piece of candy from the candy dish at the office, but
Oh, not in the break room.
yeah, so another couple hundred calories just of mindless, you know, I put some of that creamer in the coffee and that's another 100. You could easily put 4, 5, 6, 7, 800 calories on top of that and not even realize that you ate them. And I'm guilty of, I'm a mindless eater. That's something I need to work on. So he could easily be well over 4,000 calories for the day.
Easily. I mean, liquid calories really add up. I mean, if you look at, and again, it goes back to portion control. Flipping that bottle of creamer around. Don't look at the pretty picture of the coffee on the front of it. Flipping it around and looking at exactly what a serving is. It's probably like a tablespoon. If you actually measure out a tablespoon of something and you put it, we're just going to pour. And I'm not even a coffee drinker. And I mean, I have to use a half bottle of cream and just to make coffee palatable for me. So anyways, who did better in calories? Steve's calories or AJ's? I was at my 1,700 calories. AJ was almost at 4,000. Cost wise, I spent $11, or we'll call it 12. AJ was up at almost $32. Now let's look at that over 1 year, over 365 days. I spent $4,380. AJ was at almost at over 11,000. He's headed towards 12,000, especially with all this little, not that I don't have add-ons in my daily intake either, but I mean, AJ did as well. And it's just going to be exponential for him. And then calories over a year. I'm looking at 625,000 where he's looking at 1.4 million.
So going back to that picture of the people in the ocean from whatever year, you know, you could say, well, why is everybody so big now? There's your reason. And to be honest, I don't even like this reason that you're giving me, because it involves kind of self-control and not eating too much. And it's honestly not that sexy to say, well, just don't eat that much. But
and did any of my none of the meals that I showed in the my meal plan in Steve's calorie intake, they weren't that complicated. I mean, there was not, and if you look at the amount of food that was there, it was a reasonable amount, but it's probably not close to what we eat today, especially if we go out to eat. I mean, if they brought you a small plate in a restaurant with 2 chicken thighs and some vegetables and whatever else I had on that, you're gonna, I paid how much for this? Well, yeah. I mean, that's what it comes down to. I mean, it's a numbers game. So that's pretty much all that I had for the whole presentation. One last sales pitch. That's me. I change lives through fitness and nutrition coaching. StevePumphrey.com is my website. I love talking about this. I hope that came through in this presentation. So if anybody has any questions, I will happily entertain them.
So if anybody has any questions, they can put it through the chat, and I will gladly read it out. So do you have any advice on snacking? Just that handful of this, handful of that, and all of a sudden that's 600 calories, which is a third of, you know, what I should be eating, probably about a third of what I should be eating a day. And it's just, you know, a little handful of this, handful of that. But I ate healthy. I did have a salad for lunch.
Well, yeah. The snacking is tricky, because I mean, my first rule is, for me, if I want to eliminate snacking, I don't buy the snacks. You know, I wouldn't buy the potato chips or whatever. Now, if you don't mind, yeah, okay, yeah, I really like some potato chips every once in a while. Flip it around so that it's not the pretty marketing thing. Flip it around and look at the serving size. Pay attention to that. Do you have to go to the level that some people do with a scale and weigh stuff out? I do sometimes, especially if I'm a very boring eater. I can literally eat the same thing, breakfast, lunch, and dinner for 7 days a week. And I have a set number of meals that I know are within my calorie consumption needs for a day. If I go outside of that, or I want to change up a meal plan, then yeah, I will spend some time and weigh things out and see exactly how many calories or how many servings of chocolate chips. You mentioned a handful. A serving of chocolate chips is like a tablespoon. It's hard to measure chocolate chips in a tablespoon. Yeah. And I think it comes out to like 18 chips or something like that. Because at one point I did, you weigh it. I mean, everything has a weight on it for the serving size. And sometimes there's a volume, 2/3 of a cup or whatever. But I mean, the key to all that is fitting those snacks so you don't gain weight, fitting those kind of snacks in with your general calorie intake. So if you have, and I mentioned way back earlier when we first started talking about calories, about how important it is to have an idea of how much cash you have or calories that you are taking in every day. Once you get used to thinking about this stuff, and not even so much memorizing, but just becoming aware of what has, where the hidden calories are in these little snacks and where they are in your main sources of food, you'll be less, it'll become more of a habit. Like you'll just know, I'm only going to have, I know what one serving of chips is. I can pretty much see that spot on after you've measured it out. If it's 14 chips or whatever, you'll be able to get to the point where you can just put them in there and say, we're going to take a couple back out.
Sure. Hey, I got a question through Facebook asking for thoughts on intermittent fasting. And, that's kind of the hot thing right now. And, so what thing?
Intermittent fasting. I mean, one of the FAQs on my website, and it's funny because I do get the question a lot of, what do you think of diet? And we already covered diet in here. And my general thing is, you're already on a diet. Intermittent fasting, depending on how you want to look at it, I mean, centuries, however far back in time you want to go, we probably intermittent fasted because we couldn't hit a drive-through on the way home. We had to go hunt the food down. Depending on how good of a hunter we were, our intermittent fast might be a little bit longer than everybody else's. I can say mine would be, I'd be a terrible hunter if I couldn't go out to the grocery store and hunt my food. But as for the specifics of intermittent fasting, I understand the methodology or the mindset behind that. One of the things I think it does a really good job at is pointing out hunger cues. If you've never really felt hunger pangs before, it might be a good, and I'm not saying to do intermittent fasting every day or once a week or what, but take one day and just don't eat for 24 hours. I guarantee you at hour 25, you're going to know, your brain is going to understand what it is for your stomach to be hungry. And that might be all it takes for
to be actually hungry, not just like the bored hungry that I get during the day. Hey, I'm bored and I don't want to make this phone call that I've been putting off. So I'm going to go eat and say that I'm hungry.
Yeah. There's been plenty of people that have put that sign on the inside of the refrigerator, close the door, you're bored, not hungry.
Yep.
But no, I mean, I don't think, and it goes back to the 8 billion people on the planet. I tried fasting for one day. Okay, I got it. That I know, I understand hunger pangs. And now I am aware, I'm consciously aware. I don't have the sign in my refrigerator, but there's plenty of times throughout the day where I find myself, I open it up, like close the door. I'm not bored, or I'm not hungry and bored. I think to myself, do I feel hungry? But I mean, that to me is a big key, is knowing what it feels like to be hungry. And I mean, we have plenty of hungry people in this country. And some of us are very, very well fed and can probably stand to say, you know what, I'm actually going to not eat for a whole day and see what it feels like to be hungry. You're not going to die. You're not going to.
I like it. So in the last few minutes, so if anybody is listening and says, you know what, this Steve dude seems to know what he's talking about. When I look in the mirror, I don't like what I see. And I might like to talk to Steve. I might like to see, what he does. What does a professional relationship with you look like? And if anybody wanted to have a chit chat with you and explore that possibility, what would their next step be?
The easiest thing to do to connect with me is to go to my website, stevepumphrey.com. There's a comment form on there or a contact form on there. You just fill that out. That comes into my email. I run my day based on what I have in my email. That's how I track stuff. As much as I love Facebook and other social media platforms, that stuff I can get totally lost in that and forget who sent me messages and all that good kind of stuff. And so the website is generally the best way to get in touch with me. Send me an email and I'll make sure that I get back to you. We'll schedule a Zoom call. And really, as far as people, it's like back to the 8 billion of us. Everybody has a different requirement, need, desire, whatever, to look a certain way or to be a certain way. Once they get bit by I want to do something to change myself. I'm tired of being the way I am. I did the profile shot in the mirror, and I don't like the whatever it is. You have to get to the ready, willing, and able point. You have to be ready to make the change. There's plenty of people that, and I'm not I'm not being mean to people. There's plenty of people that have hit me up and said, "Hey, I want to. Are you ready? Are you really ready?" And then there's the willing and the able part. Maybe she'd be able, willing, ready, but put it in that order. Because a lot of people say they want to do stuff, but they're just not ready to make the changes in order to see the results that they want.
I like it. Before we close the show down, one of the really interesting parallels between how you work with clients and how I work with clients is in the financial planning world. There's a lot of people, a lot of advisors that kind of say, hey, everybody should invest in XYZ, or everybody needs to do this. You'll see a lot of social media posts saying the best way to build wealth is blah, blah, blah. Well, guess what? That may be the best way for me and not you, maybe the best way for you and not me. So I work very holistically with clients and try to find out what's important for them and come up with a plan that works for them, which again, your plan wouldn't work for me because we're different people. And it sounds like you kind of do the same thing with your clients. If their body seemed to react really well to a keto diet, I'm sure you'd be on board with that. If their body didn't react to a keto diet, I'm sure you would look for other alternatives for them. So I really like that approach and kind of that 8 billion people analogy to finding the right way for each one of us to eat. So